Hello, everybody, and welcome to this stream on Cut, Crime, and Rud with Captain Switzerland. Captain Switzerland, say hello.
Hello, how's it going, man?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Good. Yeah, it's been a bit of a messy day when it comes to what Rudd has been up to, and you kind of got the gist of the speech and what she was getting into. What's your kind of takeaway from it?
Well, she's got some good measures in there to try and tackle violence to a degree. Like some of the things that she wants to do around knives, about banning corrosive substances on the streets, that stuff I can get behind.
Mm.
It seems like they're kind of going the same as Theresa May does whenever we have a terrorist attack. Blame social media for all of society's ills. That seems to be one of the strategies. But aside from the fact there are some good things in there, the blindingly missing thing, I think, is any kind of acknowledgement that the cuts to police to policing and police numbers have had a negative impact on what's going on out there in the country. They seem to be blind to that still.
The fact that she all out actually denies seeing the study is actually just this is meant to be her job, keeping the public safe. This is like her number one thing to do in her job description, and she just can't get it. You can't do that right. That's some serious problems there. Where you got like the left hand and the right hand don't know what they're doing. They're not talking to each other, and that I think is an issue.
Yeah, and we're left with two options basically, aren't we? As far as her not having read this internal Home Office document, either she hasn't read it and she's incompetent because if there's evidence there to say, guess what, the police cuts are having a negative effect, she bloody well ought to know about it being head of the department. And if she has read it but she's not telling us, then she's lying to us, which is just as bad in a way.
Yeah. So whichever way she goes, she's fucked anyway, isn't she? Really. So yeah, I think. So if you like look at the cut in police numbers, it says on the report it's not the main driver, but has likely contributed to the rise in violent crime. I could get behind that. I think one of the other major drivers is I think you kind of touched on this on your short video, is the lack of intelligence led crime fighting. I think the lack of local bobbies on the beat, and these are kind of the bottom rung as well. And it seems like an easy fix, if you ask me, because they're not the most paid of bobbies, are they? They're the local bobbies.
And yeah, I just to echo that, I'd agree. It's not like a one-for-one comparison to say police numbers absolutely equals any and all crime that exists out there in the country. Of course, there are different factors out there, but it makes absolute perfect sense to me that the less police you have, the less policing you can do. That seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, there was a policeman on the radio. I think he was talking to Nick Ferrari. I think it was last week sometime, and they were talking about, and he was talking about how we have enough police, but we don't have the powers of stop and search they used to have, and so they're kind of they're not being able to do what they need to prevent crime. Would you agree with that or not?
I don't know. I hear conflicting things about how useful stop and search is to the prevention of crime. I keep hearing different things from the argument. I know that. Am I right in saying that when Sadiq Khan became mayor of London, he said he wanted to have less stop and search? Is that correct?
That's the feeling I get. Yeah, because there was an opinion from kind of pressure groups that the police were using it as a race thing, and more black people being searched than white people, and even though they didn't have weapons, what they tended to find was they would then get arrested for things like weed, having a bit of weed on them or whatever. Now, I thought there could be an easy way to get around this, and that is get the body cameras on them, right? So so they can if there is a complaint to a police officer, then obviously they have a video to refer to. Okay, there's also the other thing that they could give them is like a wand, like the metal detection wands.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, because then you kind of get rid of the kind of aggressive searching. And of course, if you've just got a bit of weed in your pocket, it's not going to come up on the BP thing, on the BP wand. So yeah, and it kind of sidesteps that issue. So I mean, I think technology will help, but obviously the other thing is, which I think should be brought in, is, like I said before, is local bobbies, but then intelligence led, searches, you know. So rather than just getting people at random and searching people at random, then they actually have, okay, well, this person's had a weapon on them before, or how they've been recently, how they've been acting in the local neighborhood, that kind of thing. What would you say to something like that?
They sound like quite sensible proposals to me, at least. As far as the body cameras go, at the very least, I've encountered some police officers before who have them, but are they not uniform across the whole force? Then is it just specific officers who presently use them?
Sorry, one more time. Sorry, mate. I was reading the side chat.
Oh, sorry, that's fine. I was saying about the police body cameras. I've encountered police in the past who have body cameras on them, but are they not presently uniform? Not everybody has one. Is it just some officers?
No, they're not. Not every single officer has them. So
well, I mean, if that's the case, then I think implementing them across the board would be very useful, because not only are you having the case that both the people that the police are interacting with are, anything that they say, anything that the police say is later able to be entirely reliably relied upon, for lack of a better word, later on down the line. But it makes the relationship between the police and the public a lot more fair. You can't have the situation where either a member of the public or the police within a certain confrontation, that either of them can lie about what's taken place if you've got body cameras there. So hopefully that would lead to reinforcing a little bit of fairness. You'll have documented evidence if someone is caught doing something wrong, but likewise, if the police are abusing their powers, then there'll be evidence there to say, well, they've clearly been acting out of order. So on that one, I completely agree. Yeah, I think if it's not the case they already have them everywhere, then they certainly should.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I was just I just googled it actually, and there's some apparently there's been some issues with the rollout. So they in Scotland there were more than 300 issues were logged when using the body camera hardware. So yeah, apparently there's issues with the rollout. So yeah, that's not too good. That's not too good.
I mean, I suppose, of course, the other aspect to this is how much it would cost. I'm not particularly privy to that, but what I'd say is probably the benefits of what we can gain from this once it's up, running, rolled out, and working outweigh whatever the potential cost would be. Especially if, as I say, the use of this could be used for evidence gathering. It means that you'll have more to rely on than just on memory when you're writing up reports and other stuff, and indeed they can be used for prosecutions at some point in the future as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like obviously we can talk all day about Amber Rudd being a muppet, not seeing the report, and reduced police numbers are obviously factors in the rise in violent crime. What other factors do you think are leading to the rise in violent crime?
Outside of what we've already talked about as far as the police go. I mean, you're probably going to like this one, given what we were discussing only the other day. But I think socioeconomic is probably a good answer. I think. See, I find it hard sometimes, Jamchi, because I try to strike a balance between understanding that out there in the country there are people pushed into certain situations. There are people who will be born into a household where they won't have that many opportunities, where there will not be solid jobs able for them to take up, maybe not that many educational opportunities either, and they will find themselves on the path of crime or being within gangs or stuff along those lines, right? But I'm trying to match that in my own head against a very strong sense that I hold of people having to be personally responsible for their own actions. So there needs to be like an understanding of of what can lead people down this path. But likewise, that in itself, I personally don't think can be used to excuse the actions of anyone breaking the law. If you get where I'm coming from there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I was watching Ma and what's her name, Julia Hartley Brewer. She kind of stumbled upon something that I do kind of agree with. What with austerity Britain, working rates being the way that they are. She was talking about the breakup of the family unit. Now, where we have in work poverty and parents are forced to do maybe two jobs, both parents are out at work working all hours. Now if you've got a kid growing up in those circumstances, it then leaves them vulnerable to kind of bad influences, because the parents aren't there to guide them. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I'm following what you're saying there. I mean, and it comes down to what we were saying. It's the environment in which someone is brought up in that can make people more or less prone to following down a path of crime. But the issue is, though, that I find that one tricky, because in some cases you can say, yes, you could absolutely point to like the A to B correlation between that. But where I grew up in down in Essex, there were like a number of kids hanging around on street corners, wearing the hoodies, dealing drugs, all this sort of thing, and they came from like middle class families in like semi-detached houses and stuff. So it's weird how different people end up following down that path heading into crime.
Yeah, definitely. I think it could be a surrounding area, and when you talk about with ethnic minorities get involved in more crime, this comes down to something that we covered in the stream a few weeks back, in the Sunday stream a few weeks back, and that I feel that where their ethnic minorities are kind of put in the same area together, and then that area is basically neglected, and there's no money put in there for renovations. There's it kind of starts to if they're brought up in a terrible surroundings, the schools there around there are terrible as well, because they don't get the teachers, because nobody wants to work there, because the schools are in a poor state, and I think that could also be a factor. I blatantly neglected.
Well, I think certainly that crime arises out of places where people, not just where people are poor, but where there's a large disparity in wealth within a local area. That's what my understanding is from what I've read things in the past. And obviously, like you say, if we've got areas that tend to be sort of clusters of ethnic minorities, then that in itself, it follows on, doesn't it? If you've got lots of poor ethnic minorities living in a certain area, that is going to generate poor ethnic minority criminals. Right. But it doesn't necessarily meet, this whole line of like, black people are more violent than anyone else and they're more likely to be criminals. It's complete nonsense. It's because if you have a group of white people within the same situation, then you will get the same sort of results for that matter as for any other group.
Yeah, I agree. And there was another thing that I thought could be a factor, and that's obviously the lack of youth centers, because all the youth programs have been closed. Again, as part of austerity Britain, there are no libraries anymore. There are no youth centres, no youth workers, no support workers. These are all factors I think are quite important, but nobody seems to be talking about it as much. Do
you think this probably ties into the youth centres to some degree, but do you think that a sense of community with people probably plays into this as well? I'm not trying to look back to some misty-eyed 1950s world where everyone on the street knew each other or that kind of thing, but I feel perhaps that if people had more of a stake in where it is that they live, that they feel that they've got somewhere to be proud of, somewhere to care about, etc., they're not going to be as quick to try and wreck the place and harm the people who live in it.
I think so. I mean, when I was growing up in council estates, when I was a kid, obviously this was way back. I mean, TVs were all black and white, and there was only 3 channels and all that kind of stuff. So, a long time ago, there was definitely a sense of community there, and everybody did know each other essentially, because it was in what we call courts. Okay, so like the houses would be in a square around each other, and everybody just used to meet up and had fun. You know, all the parents would be talking to each other. And, you know, I'll be playing with like the next door neighbor's kid, and you know, we'd go around knocking on people's houses, saying, "Oh, coming out to play," that kind of stuff. And you don't really see that as much anymore, because of I suppose it's a lot of it's fear. I suppose now, and yes, I suppose it's just fear. I mean, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's been a big shift in the way that in the way that sort of kids interact and play with each other. But part of that, you could say, probably comes down to technology as well. That people view it just as, you know, they're just as likely to have a Snapchat group, or, you know, I'm awful with apps, so I'm probably talking out my arse a little bit here, but they're, you know, they're probably just as likely to, you know, Instagram and Snapchat one another and that kind of thing, perhaps as a similar equivalent to, you know, way back when people go outside and play ball and all the rest of it. Like for my own part, it was only until I was about, I don't know, 13 or 14 that I actually spent a lot of time out and about with friends. Before that, I'd usually like stay in on the PlayStation or something. As far as the fear side of it goes, again, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure what to make of it on the whole, because I think that certainly if you live in an area where there's a high rate of crime, then of course you're going to be afraid that if you go outside, there's a chance of something bad happening to you. But then again, I feel that like the overall ethos in this country that like parents have nowadays in regards to their kids, you know, fear of pedophiles around every corner and the rest of it, that they're a lot more likely to sort of bubble wrap their children from spending too much time outside. But, you know, I'm not a parent personally, so I can only sort of speak from what I picked up from what I see around me. But there might be something to be said for that as well.
Yeah. I mean, there needs to be some, you know, extra youth programs, you know, on a local basis, you know, more local bobbies, and I think these are things that are quite, like I said before, these seem quite easy fixes, but obviously in austerity Britain, they're like, oh, do you know how much that's going to cost? Well, the thing is, how much is this crime costing? How much is this crime costing society? You know, because, you know, poverty is expensive in fighting things like, you know, the rising crime, you know.
I mean, yeah, well, the more crime there is, the more money you got to spend fighting the crime,
Yeah.
or at least clearing up after it. But I don't. You remember when there were the riots all across the UK a few years back? When 2011, is that what it was?
Right. Yeah. It started in London, in Tottenham.
Yeah. And I'm right in saying, aren't I, that at first it was born out of a protest about a young man being shot or stabbed or something along those lines, I think.
Yeah, the protesters wanted to talk to the police about it. So they had a protest outside the place, and they said, "Look, just come out and talk to us. You know, we just want to talk about this." And the police just wouldn't come out and talk to them. So yeah, they just got angry. You know, and then of course it all spread by wildfire on social media, didn't it? So
yeah, everyone heard once sort of the rioting started. Everyone from every major city in the country basically heard, "Oh wow, what? Is it time to go get a new TV from the shop round the corner? Brilliant, you know."
Yeah. It just completely, like, nobody actually looked at, you know, why these people rioting in the first place. They just assumed it was just looters, or just put it across in the media, oh yeah, these are just a criminal element, and they just want new kicks or new PlayStations or whatever. That's why they're rioting. And I really don't really agree with that analysis, but that's the way it was painted in the media.
Well, I'd agree that certainly how things started off, it was obviously about a particular issue. People weren't just going out there to cause trouble for the sake of it. They felt very strongly about what had happened to this guy, and they wanted answers from the police. But as far as the way things ended up, you know, by like the second day or the third day, where people were still returning out to try and smash up the shops, There's personally that there's little else I can read into it other than people were trying to steal things. If you get me, there's not a further level of analysis I can read into that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of difficult when at the end of the day we're just not told anything, you know. So apart from the narrative that they want to paint, which is kind of a bit harsh. So if you were Amber Rudd tomorrow, okay.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I know. God, that'll be a nightmare. Waking up and seeing her face looking back at you in the mirror, you'll be like, "Oh my fucking god!" But yeah, if you're Amber Rudd or you're Home Secretary tomorrow, what would you do? What would be the first thing that you would do?
Oh, the first thing that I'd do, other than resign, probably.
Yeah, other than resign, shoot yourself. Yeah. Apart from that.
I think I think the first thing that I do is quite a lot of police forces out there in the country are already saying things like, "Oh, we're no longer bothering pursuing people with like small amounts of cannabis on them or stuff like that because there are bigger things to have to deal with." In that sense, I would try to instruct the police, like the people who aren't already doing that, basically to say, look, we've got violent crime on the rise. These sort of things need to be pursued. I would say stop devoting, altogether. Anyone with like a minuscule amount of weed on them or something, leave it out. If someone's like dealing drugs in large quantities and you catch them red-handed, they've got like a car boot full of cocaine or something like that, then that's obviously a different story. But small amounts of like personal use cannabis or whatever, or even the ones that are presently large enough to warrant some sort of a caution or whatever, just forget it. Go focus on more important things. And I'd say the same for that matter in terms of policing social media at the moment as well. I understand that there's like a dedicated team now within many police forces to try and follow up on like accusations of people being offensive or hate crime on social media and the rest of it. Which, you can say, okay, people may well be doing things out there that are against the law online, but, anything super serious, like, I don't know, like the far right or radical Islamists planning terrorist plots or whatever, we've got the intelligence services on that. We don't, the police work in cooperation with them, but that's not really their department. We've got other people focusing on those kind of things. So I'd say that we need to get police wherever possible to forget about these minuscule crimes for the time being, your littering, your personal use cannabis, whatever. Go out and focus on burglaries, focus on violent crime that's taking place, try and get more people out of the offices and onto the streets with more patrols. And of course, that would therefore require hiring more police as well, for that matter. So I don't know what the present Labour Party policy is. I think it's to try and get another 10,000 police officers. Obviously, we've had cuts of 20,000 since 2010. But that would be the next thing on my list as well. Change the priorities of what crime you're tackling and have more people in place to tackle the crime in the first place.
Well, what do you say about the punishments for having a knife or doing a violent crime sort of around the mid-teens, so 16, 17, 18-year-olds? What would you do with those youngsters that are repeat offenders in violent crimes?
What's the present setup for all that? Because I know that we've got a difference between like the mainstream prisons and like young offenders prisons or institutes or something. Do you know what like the age cutoff point for that is?
I think it's 18.
I think it's 18.
Yeah. I'd have to double check that. I think it's 18. So if you're kind of 15, 16, 17, right? So if you're between the age of 16 and 18, or even up to the ages of 21, what I was going to suggest was rather than putting them in prison and giving them a criminal record, because that tends to just ends up in a downward spiral, is put them in the army, for however long it is.
Forced. But so that would essentially be conscription then, but conscription as a form of punishment or rehabilitation, depending on which way you look at it. But I don't know about that one. I'm very personally, I'm quite against the idea of conscription. I feel that forcing someone to enlist in the armed forces, even of course if they're not going to see combat. You know, you're not sending fresh-faced 16-year-olds out to Iraq or anything like that. That kind of goes against my personal instincts, really.
I understand that.
Yeah, but
it's just an idea. I mean,
go on.
the advantages to that is when they go into the army, then they will generally, like if they go into Royal Engineers, for instance, then they would learn a skill, right? And it's something that will be transferable when they come out of the army, you know, so they'll be able to go into, I don't know, a quick fit or whatever, and get a job there quite easily because they've got, you know, this 2-3 years of experience being an engineer or whatever, you know. And then because it's all about, you know, learning skills when you're that young, because if they do go into prison and they do manage to get rehabilitated, I mean, when they're like 35 or 40 or whatever, they'll find their dream job, for instance, and then they won't be able to get it just because something idiotic that they did when they were 16 or 18 or whatever, because of their criminal record, which I think is a real shame, you know.
I think, well, I'll put things this way then, because there's, if we give them a choice, at least we say to them whenever sentencing is occurring, say you've been caught, I don't know, like 5 times with a knife or whatever the threshold is for a sentence.
Yeah.
We say to them, okay, if you're a young person, you can either go to a young offenders institute, which is kind of the standard of where we'll be sending you at the moment, or you have a choice for us to leave the mark off your criminal record for the time being, and you can enlist in armed forces training or something like that. And then if you complete the training, if you're able to show to us that you're reformed and you can be an asset to society, then at the end of that, you can make the choice. Do you want to stay in the army? Do you want to leave and go pursue another career? That is up to you. But you need to finish the training. Obviously, you need to stick with the program. Otherwise, it'll be back to the Young Offenders Institute for you. I think if along the stages there, both at sentencing and at the end of the process, they're given a choice. We are said, do you want essentially punishment or rehabilitation? It's up to you. That would be a fairer way to go about it. I think, yeah, just because I'm sort of intrinsically against the idea of forcibly signing people up to the armed services. But if they're presented with a choice between young offenders or armed services, that sounds fairer to me.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense, to be honest, mate. And I think more people will be inclined, just because, you know, a criminal record, that's quite a bad thing, you know. It's quite a bad thing. And, you know, once they've grown up a bit, they might think, oh, how bloody stupid was I when I was that age, you know, getting involved with the wrong people or whatever. So, yeah, and it always seems a bit of a shame, you know, just to write off somebody's life like that, you know. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it, really, I think. But yeah. But if you look at, you know, the people that do get involved in gangs, there's been more than one failure for them to reach that point. I know you were saying about, you know, personal responsibility and all those bits and pieces, but they're usually looking for something that's lacking within their own family unit. So whether the parents aren't around, they're looking for a role model because their father ran off or whatever, or they're looking for protection because they don't have protection at home. I mean, these are some major issues that are problems within these societies, and they need to be addressed.
I think the problem with this overall, though, is it's so multi-tiered how far we go into it. Because, you know, we can say, like, you know, people may go into gangs because they're not getting enough from their own family life. And then from the family life, you can often say, well, that might be a knock-on effect from, I don't know, if a person's father isn't around because they were in a life of crime and they're in prison, then that goes back. And, you know, if we're talking about, like you were saying before, a single mother working 2 jobs or something, well, that's down to the jobs available in the economy. So I guess the way to try and solve the causes as well as the symptoms is a much bigger, all-encompassing change to try and how we change to society rather than just within the area of crime prevention, because I think it's trying to make people's overall qualities of life on offer better. Because I certainly think as well, then, as I say, I don't shy away from personal responsibility, but I certainly think that if you've got a country where people genuinely do feel that they have a stake in things, that they've got an opportunity out there to succeed, to be able to You know, either whether they want to contribute something to society or not. Maybe they just want to stay at home and do their own thing, as long as they're, you know, earning money to get by or whatever. Then that ought to be fine. But if we can build that kind of better society with a better framework for people in the first place, then anyone who then outside of that decides to go off and, you know, join gangs, stab people up or anything like that, I think it would also mean it would be a lot clearer to draw a sort of line between saying, you know, you've been given opportunities, now go join the army or end up at the Young Offenders Institute or whatever. But I suppose the overall thing that you're driving at really is that if we can try and make changes so people's early years and the background they come from starts them off with better chances, we're less likely to see more criminals in the first place.
Yeah, basically. That's the thing. I mean, and to be someone like Amber Rudd and you know, blindly cutting police numbers without even the thought of the ramifications of that is stupid, very, very stupid. And then to not see a report when it's given to her again is just absolutely mind-boggling, going back to what we were saying earlier. But also to not have you know, address any of the reasons, or even ask questions, why are people getting into this stuff, you know, and to not have the intelligence to even put together a study or a focus group or anything like that. I just, again, is just stupid. But yeah, Asim has just joined from New Left Voice. Hello, Asim.
He'll be with us in a second, I'm sure.
So yeah, before we carry on, see if he's gonna talk. He's probably just sorting out his headset or something. But yeah, to just blindly not even address these issues, I think is just well, they don't really care, do they? Because it doesn't affect them at the end of the day.
I mean, just to reiterate what I said in that video on my channel, and indeed what we said at the start of the stream for anyone who's joined us since, is that, of course, police numbers alone are not the be-all and end-all of crime prevention. But for the Home Secretary to fail to acknowledge that there's a tangible link between reducing the number of police out there and the ability for them to police is just ridiculous to me.
Hi, Asim. You got your headset sorted?
Yeah. I just had to. Yeah, I didn't realise I had the switch set to off, you know, for the microphone. So. Yeah,
how are you doing, sir? Did you enjoy your birthday? Did you have a good birthday and all that?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was weird because I found out family were actually shopping in the Bullring, and they were like, I woke up at 1 o'clock, and they were like, I got their text, and then like, do you want to join us for lunch? I'm like, dude, I'm not even out of bed yet, so I had to get ready, go and, you know, oh, fuck it hell. And then, yeah, and then after, I was like, can I go back now? And they were like, oh no, stay for dessert. And then they spent an hour shopping, and I was like, guys, can I go back now? So then oh my god, it's, you know, it's ridiculous, but yeah. And then I got back here around what 4:20. So, you know.
Angels has a question for you. She says, "Happy birthday, Asim. How old are you now? 14?
Not 19.
Angels.
Yeah. Well. I think she's making fun of me because I'm a Brexiter and she hates me for it. So.
Oh dear, right there.
Yeah.
So
the joke's on her because we're leaving.
Yeah. No. I said in the bullet chat, I said because Angel says she loves Ken Clark, and I said only reason Angels likes him is because he's a hard Remainer, and she said he's the bomb. I'm making my sugar daddy.
Oh dear, right there. Dear. So, Asim, we're talking about Cuts, Crime, and Rudd.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Was it Amber Rudd?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't she look like a horrible school teacher?
Yeah. She looks like one of those teachers, like, you know, when you walk in and she just stares at you throughout the lesson.
Sorry, I'll be right back. Bear with me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's just the two of us here then. How's it going?
It's all right, Swiss. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I've been busy the last couple of days. Went out to eat yesterday, and then I found out family was shopping, so they called me over, and I had to rush off to the bull ring. So there we go.
Fair dues, and you just got back in then.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because they were like, "Oh, come over. We're gonna go out to eat," and I was like, "Yeah, give me half an hour. I'll be there." Went there, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, let's have dessert," and I was like, "Sure, if we're not too quick." And then we spent an hour shopping. And then we had dessert, and then I had to come back, and I was like, "Guys, that's a bit long." Oh god.
No, it sounds it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wonder where Champchi's disappeared off to then.
I don't know. Yeah. But
Sorry
yeah,
about that. Yeah. Go on, Karen. Well, we're just saying that.
It was nice. It was nice yesterday. I went out to eat. It was the first time I've ever had a ribeye steak. So that was nice. Yeah.
Good. That
was nice. Yeah.
So, did you catch Amber Rudd's speech?
No, I didn't. I saw the link on the chat this morning, but I didn't catch the speech.
I don't think anybody watched it, to be honest.
To be fair, I don't. She's going to be gone by the next election, so I don't really care.
Like her majority is only what, 300 votes or something.
Yeah, 200, 300. Because she had to have like a couple of recounts, didn't she?
Yeah, 5 times I think.
It's like watching yesterday's woman today, basically.
Yes. I assume. Well, I was about to say, well, she must be good at her job, but blatantly she isn't good at her job.
Yeah.
With her complete lack of intelligence.
Yeah, but, it was weird because there was something about Amber Rudd like saying we should like police people's chats, and I think it was like George who was saying, "I'd reckon we have a group chat removed." And then I talked about my group chat. I was like, Amber Rudd is a Remainer. The shit we've said about the EU and the Tories would get us banned instantly. And then I was talking about my group chat, and Angels didn't get it. So it's like, excuse me, the fact of a Remainer who can stomach Rudd might save us. And I was like, no, I was talking about my separate chat with George and Calvin. And she was like, oh, okay. And I said, 3 left-wing Eurosceptics are definitely going to make fun of the EU and the Tories, LOL. So there we go. But yeah, she got triggered as soon as I mentioned the EU, and she didn't understand it was about my separate chat, not about the bullet chat. So yeah, it's weird. But to be fair, she gets triggered every time we mention the EU. Let's be honest. So. Yeah,
well, it's like I said, we're coming out, so let's just get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. So because I think most people are decent. Most Remainers are decent, but then you've got like the hard Remainers. ABTV, FBPE, we are the opposition now, that type. Yeah.
I thought this was supposed to be about policing.
Oh, yes, so did I.
Yeah.
Not triggering Angels. But okay. Yes. Tell us what you think anyway, Asim.
Yeah, I just think it's ridiculous. And then they're saying about this whole the whole terrorism and the whole policing of the chat thing. You wouldn't need to police the chat if you had 20,000 more police on the streets. Ridiculous. Like I said, we were talking about Bobby's on the beat. I suppose another idea is they should be recruited from the areas that they're actually going to be on the beat in, and they should be representative of that area. Because I think me and you, Champy, were talking about this, and it was like about a revolution, and some of the police might actually be on our side because they've been treated so badly.
Yeah, I mean that was the one thing that Margaret Thatcher did when she got into power. She increased the police wages by about 30%. Because then she knew that she would need the police to break the miners. Yeah. So
but then this government is so incompetent that if they wouldn't see a riot if it hit them. To be fair.
Yeah. Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Chamchu.
Yes, mate.
Could we ask the side chat what their opinions on this are as well? Because I know that they've sort of been chatting about this here and there, but folks, how do you feel about the state of the overall police numbers and how much you feel that has an effect on the ability to police violent crime, another crime for that matter as well? Because I think the 3 of us here are broadly in consensus with what we've spoken about so far. But I know that sort of out there we've got Philip Mason, a Conservative, Angels, Lib Dem, or indeed Independent as things currently stand for the locals, and a few of our fellow lefties out there as well. So I'm just interested to hear sort of what people think from the other side as well, whether they've got broadly the same analysis or not.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would be interesting to find out. What I could do actually is I could drop a link in the chat anyway, in case anybody
Yeah.
wants to come in and join us and
Yeah,
give us their
Cameron
two
said
cents.
that. Yeah, Cameron said that Rod is like a younger Theresa May, but yeah, let's be honest, she's robotic and uninspiring.
Mm.
But I remember, well, didn't Theresa May basically like force Amber Rudd to stand in for her at the leaders' debate when like her dad died like 2 days earlier or something ridiculous?
Yeah, that was well rude. Yeah.
That's Theresa May. All she can do is try and cover her ass. That's all she can do. That's Theresa May.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, she appears to be the perfect successor to Theresa May because she's not a very good Home Secretary either. So it kind of fits the mold pretty well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Theresa May was Home Sec for 6 years before she became PM. Ridiculous.
I mean, what did May do that was good? I'm trying to think. I think that there was a speech. There was a speech where I think she stood up to some of the vested interests in the police force. I think that was quite good. And obviously she must have tackled some things subsequent to that. She obviously eventually was able to get rid of, I forget his name. Was it the guy with the hook hand? Or was that somebody else?
Yeah.
Abu Hamza. Was that
Abu
it?
Hamza, yeah.
But kind of those are really the only things I can point to as far as I'm aware. She oversaw a decline in numbers and that there hasn't been any great
police,
reforms of the prison system or nothing.
Yeah, police and also armed forces as well. That's a very important one. And also privatizing the prison system as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's going to be well dodgy. So, out of interest, I don't know if any of you know the answer to this question. So, the police aren't allowed to strike. Has that always been the case? Like it's written in their contract?
I don't know.
That's not one that I could answer for you either. I can consult Mr. Google very quickly and try and find out the background of this.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh Christ! I just typed in can the police stroke? That's not what I was looking for. The police have been banned from striking since 1919, when the Police Act was first established. The Police Federation of England and Wales balloted members in 2013 for the right to strike, but failed to gain enough signatures to change the law. So it's been the case for 100 years or so.
Wow, just a little while then. Okay, that's interesting. Because obviously they have the Policemen's Federation, which is where they, where they do take action. It's almost like a union, but they're not allowed to strike, as you just said. And didn't Theresa May say to the police, "Look, we gave you your Policemen's Federation, and if you don't play nice, we'll take it away," something like that.
Along those lines, she was basically saying, "You've got to get your own house in order and start policing yourselves a little bit better. Otherwise, we'll do it for you." Yeah, roughly that.
Dear, oh dear. Yeah, it's yeah, not a fan of either of them, really, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, if there's nobody's got anything to add, then I think we should wrap this up. I think.
Should we read a few of the comments people have offered really quickly?
Yeah, sure, go for it. You're better at this than I am, so yeah, go for it.
Sure, no worries. Let's hope I can read out the words fairly good today.
I put a good one in the chat. I said, Angels, why are you getting triggered over a ribeye steak? The cow must have been a Brexiteer.
That's him. Please, mate.
On topic. Angel said, like I said, I don't see police on the beat much except PSOs, but I see tons of sirens and meat wagons and cars almost daily, and shitloads of police in Waterloo towards the office in Whitehall. Phil Mason says, I can't get excited about this topic. It's not a problem up here in Yorkshire. Jack James, I've seen armed police patrols around Embankment and Whitehall. And Cameron Hickman says, I saw armed police in Sheffield train station a few weeks ago. I think, I think the largest collection of police I ever see in one place usually is whenever there's a football game on somewhere nearby, and they're all heading out to sort of keep an eye on the on the supporters.
Poor old David Lammy. There's no police around here. We've been standing here for a long time.
And
there's no police.
There's police like standing behind him in a high visibility jacket, just staring at him.
Oh dear, it's just like, oh, Lammy. He's a good guy. I think he's a good MP, but I mean, fuck's sake,
Yeah.
that'll be on
Yeah,
me for years to
he
come.
he did some good stuff after Grenfell. I'm not gonna lie, but that was different.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything else to add?
No, I think that's about it from me.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Oh yes, for those of you that were looking for the political Guess Who, that has been put back due to poor Rodog's health. She is a bit sick at the moment, so it could be tomorrow or maybe Thursday or Friday. We'll see. See what happens there. Watch this space. We did refer to Swiss's new videos. Go and check those out. I did watch the one about the cuts, and it was a rather good little short one. I still haven't seen the centrist one, but I will check that out. What else have you got planned for this week, Swiss?
At some point in the next week, I'm going to be making greenparty.mp4, the next one of the little animated shorts. I don't exactly have a date for when that'll be ready, but it's some point within the next week is the best I can say on that one. And I imagine at some point soon, I'm going to have to tackle Syria, Assad, chemical weapons, Corbyn's response, and all that lovely stuff. But I'm kind of holding my horses a little bit to see where the story goes at the moment before I want to jump in head.
Yeah, it's
me at this point. I've got my skepticism.
It's it's still fermenting, that story, isn't it? Really. So it's best to see where we are towards the end of the week. Definitely. But I'll keep an eye on it as well. Asim, what have you got planned for this week?
I'm having my usual Wednesday podcast with Calvin and George. I think around 7 p.m. as usual. So yeah.
Okay. What guests do you have this week?
I don't know. I haven't organised anything, but one of my uni friends, he said he'd like to come on. So it'd be interesting. He's a left winger, but he's like a hardcore Remainer, so it'd be fun.
Oh, excellent. That sounds like great fun. Like I said, we'll keep our ears open for Road Dogg. Hope she does get better soon. Get well soon, everybody. Get well soon. Sorry, Road Dogg. And we'll have a political Guess Who. She says she's ready to go. It's just her voice and everything else is not doing too well. So yeah, but yeah, should be a good one. Another funny one. Then of course next week, Asim, you'll be doing it. Have you started collecting your pictures?
Oh no. Well, I need to have a look. I'm just too busy with uni work at the moment, so I haven't had time.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Well, everybody sign off then.
All right. Yeah, I'll go first. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll have my podcast on Wednesday evening with Calvin and George. So keep an eye out for that.
Excellent. Swiss.
Thank you for having me. As always, Champchi. Anyone out there watching who hasn't seen any of the videos I stuck up today, go check them out. And I look forward to political Guess Who whenever it is we do it. Yeah,
this week at some point. I'm hoping so. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, or maybe Wednesday even. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how Road Dogg is doing. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody. This is Champchi signing off. Bye-bye.
Bye.